Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, October 25th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now, I've got some really good news to share with all of you. A few reports have come out this week relative to the health of the state retirement system, as well as the latest investment information from the Pension Reserves Investment Trust Fund, the PRIT Fund. Now, all of this is related really to all retirees, and it really speaks to the ability of our public retirement systems to continually improve COLA benefits, for instance. And this is extremely important at a time when we're about to begin the process through the Special COLA Commission that is tasked with examining and making recommendations to improve the COLA, both for state and teacher retirees to improve the COLA base, as well as providing more options for local retirement systems within the financial structures of local pension funds to increase local benefits as well. So the information that we're providing today really applies to everyone, even though in terms of the 2024 State Retirement System Actuarial Valuation Report, which is specific to the state retirement system, the news and the information that's coming out of that report it is really indicative across the board of all 104 public retirement systems across Massachusetts that the news is good, things continue to go very, very well. And this really points in the right direction in terms of our ability to continue to improve benefits while at the same time making sure that you have a secure and reliable retirement going forward. So in terms of the PRIT Fund, the latest information we have, and this is through August of this year, once again this year, PRIT is really outperforming the benchmarks. Last year in 2023, the annual return for the PRIT Fund was more than 10%. This year, we're on the verge of another double-digit return. Now, as I said, the information we have is through August. We should have September and October financial reports sometime around mid to late November. So things lag a little bit behind. But all indications are, as of now, that we're looking at perhaps another double-digit return from the PRIT Fund. Now, PRIT invests not only the state and teacher retirees' money, but they invest monies for about 2/3, maybe to 80% of all of the 102 local retirement systems. So as the PRIT Fund is doing well, naturally, it flows right down the line that all retirement systems are going to do well. And the asset allocation and the investment approach, whether it be at the state level, through PRIT and the work of the Pension Reserves Investment Management Board, the PRIM Board, those returns, while they're not ever going to be identical, they're going to be similar to each other. So when things are going well, they typically go well across the board for everyone. So through August, the PRIT Fund has returned 8.6% through August, and that leaves 4 months remaining in the current calendar year that are not reported yet. On a 5-year basis, the fund has returned an astounding 9.2%. On a 10-year basis, it's 8.1%. And going all the way back to 1985, when the PRIT Fund was first created and the modern pension funding schedules were put in effect in the late 80s. So this is the since inception number, as it's referred to. Going again back to 1985, the PRIT Fund has returned 9.34%. Now, these are fantastic numbers, particularly when you take into account that the assumed annual rate of return today at the PRIT Fund is 7%. So if we're earning 8.6, 9.2, 8.1 over a 10-year period of time, that's more than a full percentage point above the assumed rate of return. And that's generating, on an annual basis, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases when we've had double-digit returns, like we had back in 2021, which was a historically great year. It generated billions of dollars in excess earnings. Now, we need to keep in mind that these are going to be averaged over time. So there are going to be times, like going back to 2008, 2009, the financial crisis, where the fund lost about 30% in 1 year. Now, it came roaring back and we made all that money back, but things are going to ebb and flow with the financial markets. But the bottom line is the PRIM board, which is chaired by State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, run on a day-to-day basis by Executive Director and Chief Investment Officer Michael Trotsky. Michael, of course, has been our guest a couple of times now with our teletown hall meetings, and hopefully he'll join us again in the future. Those meetings have been very well attended. Members really want to know how your money is being invested and just the sense of security with it. But across the board, they have done a wonderful job of investing your pension funds, growing that money to create a situation where the state is not only on target to be fully funded by 2036, which is the current deadline, but perhaps even earlier. And any excess earnings, we believe, and we continue to argue this point, that a portion of those excess earnings should be shared with you, the beneficiaries of the system. Now, in terms of the health of the state retirement system, every year the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, PERAC, and I know I'm throwing around a lot of acronyms this week. It's a lot to take in, but PERAC is a state pension oversight agency. PERAC employs actuaries that examine and evaluate the health of our pension systems. And at the local level, PERAC, along with a number of private sector actuaries that operate here in Massachusetts, do the same thing for local systems on a every other year basis. But for the state and teacher systems, every year PERAC conducts a new valuation of the system. And it's essentially kind of like a physical exam or your annual physical that you go through, but a lot more comprehensive. They go through all of the gains and losses of the systems, any changes in mortality tables, earnings assumptions, pay raises for active employees, disability rates. There's a whole set of criteria, and in the coming weeks we're going to delve a little bit deeper into some of these details to provide somewhat of an explanation of how all of this works, because we think it's important that all of you understand how your systems are being run, but also at the same time to make sure that elected officials and other government leaders and the members of the Special COLA Commission also have a full understanding of all of this. Because it is pretty niche in terms of public policy, and it's something that we work on every single day. But for the average person out there, it's kind of like you're speaking a foreign language at times. But the very good news is that the latest state valuation, which PERAC just recently released, we just got a copy of it yesterday as a matter of fact, has very good information. The health of the state retirement system is excellent. The teacher retirement system's annual valuation we anticipate being released sometime late November, maybe early December, but we'll certainly have it before the end of the year. But the kind of snapshot of how things are going, the funded ratio continues to improve and increase for both the state and teacher systems. The current, as of January 1st of 2024, the funded ratio for the state system is 72.5%. That's a 1.2% increase over just a year ago. So things continue to trend in the right direction. At the same time, because of the tremendous success of the PRIT Fund, the state retirement system gained, in terms of an asset gain, an investment gain, $497 million in 1 year. That was the asset gain. Now again, these funds are going towards paying off and paying down the unfunded liability that exists, which at this point is about $14 billion in unfunded liability that must be paid off between now and 2036, just 11 years from now. And that's where the pension funding schedule comes into play. For the current fiscal year, the state will appropriate $4.5 billion toward the funding of both the state and teacher retirement systems. A very large portion of that $4.5 billion is going toward paying off the unfunded liability year to year. Those funds, along with active employee contributions, go into the investment portfolio. They're invested in the financial markets, and those returns are used to pay down the debt as well as pay benefits for current retirees, as well as have the money on hand to pay benefits for future retirees. Now, I'm not going to get into a full breakdown of all the key findings in the valuation. That information can be found in today's email message that went out to all Mass Retirees members at 6 a.m. this morning. If you're watching this video on YouTube or on Facebook, if you're not a member of our association, please consider joining. You can join online at massretirees.com. We represent all retired public employees across Massachusetts. We also have an associate member program for active employees looking for information to help you better prepare and be well informed going into your retirement. But in terms of the state system, another key finding is that as of January 1st, there were 69,750 retirees as members of the system. The total retirement benefits that were paid out of the state system in 2023 were a little bit more than $2.9 billion in pension benefits were paid out. The average pension now for state retirees is $42,000 a year. The average age of a state retiree is 72.7 years. So the average age continues to tick up little by little, year over year, as well as the average pension benefit continues to tick up year over year. I believe a year ago it was around 40,000, maybe 39 and change, so it's certainly increased. On the active employee side, there are now 91,000 active state employees. The average age is 46.6. The average years of service, and this was really surprising to us, the average years of service for active state employees is only 11.4 years. So that's a year and a half, basically, beyond being vested, which is pretty astounding. Our workforce continues to get younger or be younger with fewer years of credible service. So again, if you're looking for further information as well as a link to read this full valuation report, it's contained in today's email message that went out to all of our members. Now, how all of this ties together, once again, as we enter into November and December and into 2025, the Special COLA Commission that Frank Valeri was just confirmed to last week, sworn in as a member of last week. We're anticipating the commission will get underway probably the second week of November, just after the election, and things will begin to happen at a pretty rapid clip at that point. The reporting date of the commission remains February 1st. However, that may get pushed out a little bit depending on how quickly we can ascertain all the information and kind of come together with a recommendation. But the goal of the commission is really multifaceted. First and foremost, it's to increase the COLA base for state and teacher retirees, which, as most of you probably know, has not increased since 2012 and has been stuck at just $13,000 a year. The information I just reported, based on the state valuation and the PRIT Fund earnings, really help to bolster our argument that not only is a COLA benefit necessary, and an increase in the base absolutely necessary, but it's also affordable. We believe we can accommodate that with some changes to the pension funding schedule and some of the methodology that goes into it, to spread those payments out over time, to make it affordable for taxpayers to fund these benefits, because they are new benefits and the funding for it has to come out of the retirement system. The state's making their appropriation to it along with the active employees, and together with investment returns, those funds are going to pay for increased COLA benefits going forward. But the fact also remains, like I just reported, of the number of newer retirees earning much larger pensions than folks who had retired 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that is really the focus of a second piece of the COLA Commission, which is creating a senior or enhanced COLA benefit that would be paid in addition to the traditional COLA. And the focus of the enhanced COLA benefit will be to provide additional COLA benefits for long-term retirees. So in other words, folks who have been retired for 15 or more years, to help you catch up a little bit with inflation. And again, the results of these reports really speak to why this is important and why it's necessary and why it's also doable. And then the third aspect of the commission that really applies to all retirement systems and helping local systems as well as the state and teacher systems find ways to affordably increase the COLA base, spreading out those new costs over the life of their funding schedules going forward. That's going to be a key aspect of the work of the commission, getting creative, finding some new solutions to fund these things going forward. But the work that's being done across the board on a day-to-day basis, particularly on the investment front, and our hats have to go off to our friends down at the PRIM board and all the good work, and our Executive Vice President, Paul Shanley, who's one of the elected members of PRIM. Things are going very, very well on your behalf. Now it's up to us to find a way to put that money to use, to make the changes necessary that retirees can finally truly share in the success that we've seen of these systems. So keep an eye on these weekly updates going forward. Like I said, we're going to start to dive a little bit deeper into how these things work, what goes into the pension funding schedules, what makes up these valuation reports and so forth. So the report today is really the tip of the iceberg, but keep an eye on this report, our newsletter, which is going out at the end of November, our January edition of The Voice. We'll have a lot of information in the coming weeks and months to share with you, as well as the elected officials who also tune into this channel. So thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do for mass retirees, and we will be back to you again next week with a new update. Bye-bye, everybody.